to Rotary Club of Cultural Exchange enthusiasts. So this is for club members. I just want to confirm that we are on. Thanks for everyone responding for the COVID-19 vaccination update. The majority of us are vaccinated, and so we are a go for both the photo and lunch on the 27th. So I can send this out, but if you know where the Dairy Queen is, right by Minnehaha Falls Park, this is where we're going to meet the photographer, kitty corner in the parking lot. So the address, I'll send this out in email as well, but 4740 Minnehaha, or if you happen to know where the Dairy Queen is, over by Greg's apartment. And then just kitty corner across, they turn the intersection into a circle, one of the traffic circles. It's just kind of kitty corner across. We'll meet there. He thinks about 45 minutes for the photo. And then he'd also like to take some candid shots once we go to lunch. So then lunch is just a few blocks away at Town Hall Lane. So I think Elke was maybe only going to come for lunch. So if that's you, here's the address for that, 5019 South 34th. I'll put this in the chat once Robyn starts to speak. But Robyn, we are going to be featured as an e-club in the Rotary magazine that goes out like all around the world. So we're super excited. Yeah, so a photographer has actually been hired in Minneapolis, and this is happening in a couple of weeks. And this also for members will take place of our regular Wednesday meeting. So I'll take that off the books, and then we'll just plan on the meeting on the 27th. So the Rotary year, for those who may not know, runs July 1st to June 30th every year. Robyn, Rotary breaks the world up into what we call Rotary districts. So the majority of southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin comprises 2 Rotary districts that, because we're the Twin Cities, we work very closely together. We're District 5960. The Minneapolis side is District 5950, even though many of us live on the Minneapolis side. Anyway, our new incoming district governor is Kenny Klooster. Many of you know him from in-person gatherings. He's gregarious. He's going to be great. He's a really, really nice guy. And he's from the Mankato Club. So I had a call this week from the current president of the Mankato Club inviting all of us to an in-person installation of Kenny as district governor in Mankato. It's going to be held at the Blue Boat, 6 to 9 p.m. on Friday, June 25th. The president is also asking all clubs that if individual members or the club would like to make a donation towards this installation event, that they would really appreciate that. So myself, I'm probably kicking in like 20 bucks. So if anyone else has an interest in doing that, just please, why don't you text me and we'll figure out where to send the checks and whatnot. You can do that during the meeting today. No pressure whatsoever. And if you have no interest in doing it, no problem at all. But the president said like any donation of any size would be appreciated. But I think we're going to have a really good year beginning July 1st with Kenny. He's just, he's a fun guy. So that's my message on that. Butterfly Service Project and Pollinator Service Project. Our next meeting is tomorrow at noon. So for those on the call, if you'd like to attend the meetings, we're holding them weekly until a grant deadline in early June. Please, and if you're not on my calendar invite list, just message me in chat and put your email address in. I'll get you added to that. And okay, upcoming speaker ideas. Robyn, I'll include you in this one. We are good on speakers until about the second week in June, and then we have a lot of openings. So if anyone has ideas for speakers, if they would be interested in speaking personally about their youth exchange or themselves and what they do professionally as a business person, if you have people from your community or club, or we had a really neat speaker from one of the inbound exchange students from Brazil who stayed with Chris Ann. Chris Ann was her host mom. It was a really neat kind of reunion for her to talk to us. So even people who are not in Minnesota or Western Wisconsin, you know, any speaker ideas at all, Chris Ann and I would love you to know that you will be our best friends if you come up with some ideas for us.
And is it specifically related to youth exchange, or are you focused more broadly on any type of international travels? Is it, maybe you can define that a little bit more for me.
Yeah, I think in theory, if there's a tie into youth exchange or cultural exchange, that's ideal. Many of our presentations, though, have been from even Rotary Youth Exchange students, but really not speaking about their exchange at all, speaking about, back pain or their profession as a professional illustrator for meetings. So I think there's a lot of latitude. So yeah, if you have ideas, we'd really be open to them.
I'll give it some thought for sure.
Yeah, and anything international will certainly, be great. Karin, I hope it's okay that I share that you have some travel plans yourself later in this year to a rather exotic place. Could you tell the group where that is, if that's okay? Oh, you're on mute.
Well, who wouldn't want to go to Uzbekistan?
I mean, who wouldn't, right?
Right. Well, I can tell you who wouldn't, my husband.
You're Well, this sounds, yes, exciting. And I definitely am hitting you up in advance for a meeting once you get back, showing us the photos and telling us.
I look forward to it. I, sure hope that it won't be, I'm watching what's happening in India and wondering what'll happen in Central Asia,
Yeah.
But at any rate, and I also have a friend who is willing to be a speaker, and she's a teacher, so June is really good for her. She couldn't do it before then, so we can connect on that later.
Great.
I also have other thoughts as a way for us to know one another better, because we're not face to face, and that is to have a meeting devoted to life hacks, little things that we do to make life easier. And it could be by topic, it could be just general life hacks. I was thinking interior design, car care, makeup, I don't know, all kinds of stuff we could come up with. The other thought I had was to maybe do some cooking. Maybe some cooking tutorials, or if someone has something kind of fun and easy to make, if we could do it during a meeting, that would be kind of fun as well. Or even have a mixologist come in and have summer drinks, have a couple recipes for that. So think of things like that and give me some of your ideas, because I'd like to make this as personal as we can be, as we're so spread out.
If we are going to be doing that online, I have been asked by the Sister City Committee, because they're trying to do, they're finally figuring out that they can do some virtual things. So one of the things they've asked me to do is to put together some Minnesota recipes, and so that they can do an exchange with Nagasaki on how to cook some American dishes, and just kind of keep it really simple. You know what I mean? Simple dishes and basic dishes, and something that they could use for some of their virtual events or to put on their website.
And what's the time difference with Japan? It would be really fun for a joint meeting, but I have a feeling that 4:30 p.m. is about 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it's difficult, let me tell you. And
I think right now it's 15 hours. With the time change now, I think it's 15 hours.
Yeah, and I know for me with COVID, it's been really bad, because I'm not only dealing with our Austrian outbound or inbound exchange student, but I have a host sister in Switzerland, and my other host sister. I mean, and my sleep schedule gets really messed up. But we can open it up to, if they wanted to see it. But that's why I'm saying, if we do something like that and we can record it on a Zoom, or these like American life hacks, because those are kind of fun things. But that would help with the cultural exchange to try to kind of drum up, because even Japan is having a hard time, even pre-COVID, finding outbound exchange students. So it would be a fun thing for our group, but then it's something that also can kind of live on. So
thanks so much. So thanks, Ann. Any additional ideas, throw them in chat, and we can we'll get them Chris Ann and I can get them recorded and we'll go from there. So, and welcome new members, welcome Anne and other new members. Another thing, Ann McCarthy, that we have done in the past is new member inductions, where we have a little ceremony. So we'd like to do one for you. And so that can be upcoming. We usually coordinate that with you ahead of time and to let you know what the date is. And then we ask you to just say a few words about yourself and introduce yourself. So before that, just as, we're actually, you guys, making kind of nice progress on our goal to reach 25 members by the end of the year. We are small, but we're growing. When you look percentage wise, we have a very nice membership growth. Robyn, typically Rotary clubs have a yearly fee, which can be into the hundreds or thousands. This is because we're e-club, because we have new meals, our fee is really low, $270 per year. And we allow people to pay either once or twice, and would love to have you. I mean, if you like the vibe of this club today, please consider joining us for a couple of more meetings, seeing if this might be a good fit for you, especially with the travel that you do.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Thanks. And then just a reminder, I don't think we have anyone from other clubs, but we also have a friend of the club program where people can, Elke's on the call and she's a friend of the club. So it just allows people to be a part of the regular in-person club when it returns in person, and also kind of be an active participant with our club. So that's a neat program as well. Next week, we're hanging out next week. So come, bring a beverage, bring a snack, and let's just talk and, hang out. So it's our members only happy hour. And with that, we're up to Robyn. So Robyn, thanks again for being here. I don't know if I've talked about this really at all in our e-club meetings, but in the 90s, I was a board member of an organization here in the Twin Cities called the Uganda Project. And we did a lot of like farm support and clean water wells and books and education, all the rest. I was then a board member of an organization called Fill a Mind and Heart, which did a lot of educational work for 4 private all-girls schools in Ethiopia. So those 2 projects were about 15 years of my volunteer work in the 90s. So I personally have a real interest in what you're doing, not only in South Africa, but how it might apply throughout, the continent and other countries. And especially, and also just being an exchange student in Oaxaca. Oaxaca was one of the I think it was the 3rd poorest state in Mexico. So there was poverty all around, and education was definitely a challenge in many of the more rural areas. So you have a captive group of people here, and really looking forward to the presentation. So I will stop my share. I will let you take over.
Thank you.
Welcome again.
I'm going to share my screen before I start my introduction, and just to be sure I have that going, so I remember to, as we talked, as the meeting was starting, to share sound, which is critical. Let me just adjust. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. One second. I've got all of your lovely faces on top of the presentation. So I always wonder if that interferes at all, if you get a brown box on top of it. So my name's Robyn Coquyt. I'm the Executive Director of Africa Classroom Connection for the past year. I'm super excited about this club. And when I reached out, I didn't know exactly what your mission or motivation was. So it's great to hear, and I'm glad everyone took time to introduce themselves. Before I start talking about ACC, I'll just give you a little bit of background about myself. I was an exchange student to Japan in 1983. And after that exchange, my family hosted 2 exchange students from Japan. And I'm still very much in touch with the one girl that lived with us for 12 months. And she lived with us in 1986. And we talk weekly, which is amazing. And that had a whole life cycle of its own. For many years, we weren't in touch, just, annual Christmas cards. And about 15 years ago or so, I started working in Japan, and the hotel that I always stayed in was on top of the Shiseido organization. So my hotel started like at floor 38, and she worked for Shiseido in that building. So she was just literally floors below me, and we reconnected, 2 decades later. So that was pretty incredible. I was on a program called Youth for Understanding. And after that program, I felt so fortunate that I had received a scholarship, and I would not have been able to have the experience otherwise, and felt so fortunate about it that I felt like I needed to give back to their organization. So I remained a very active volunteer with them until just a handful of years ago. I was an area representative, so I was doing orientations for kids before they left the country, for their families, and then also on the inbound students, I had orientations with them as well. And then I had a responsibility where every month I met with the student, a host parent, and the school, and had to write up reports for the State Department so that everything was on file. And through that became very much entangled, for good and bad, all of the ways you can get entangled in somebody's lives. So that was really rewarding to be able to do that. And I felt like my own exchange just changed the trajectory of my life. Through that, when I was 26, I want to say, I had an exchange student come and stay with me from Greece, and his host family had fallen through the week he was to travel. And of course, you have to have a home for the student to arrive to. So I said, well, I can take him for a couple days until we figure out where he's going to stay. He moved out 10 years later. He had he'd lost his mother a few years before he moved in with me, and he was an only child. And his father just asked me if it went well, if I could just keep him, because his educational opportunities would be so much greater in the US than what he was going to have in Greece. So through that, I have a son and 2 grandkids, and they are pretty much my world. So I feel so many blessings and so much gratitude through the joys of cultural and student exchanges. I worked for Medtronic for 23 years in clinical research until 2 years ago when I left to care for my mother. And through that, I had the opportunity to lead global teams, and I had positions and assignments around the world. So was it Olga? Who's from the Netherlands?
Yep, that's me.
Olga. Okay, so I lived in Maastricht for in 2008, 2009.
Sure.
And then I have took an assignment in India, and I have spent a lot of time in Japan. So I had 15 years of work off and on with a lot of time logged in Tokyo. I think the last year I was there, I think I spent 250 days out of the year in Japan. So I was not technically living there, but I was living there. So that's just my background, but I'm here today to talk to you about the nonprofit that I'm leading called Africa Classroom Connection. And I will just start with a little video. It's just a couple minutes long, but it'll kind of set the stage for the work that we're doing. If you can't hear it, let me know and I'll increase my volume on my end. I'll try this.
When Anneli Zuma says goodbye to her family and sets off for school, she faces a 3-mile hike over the undulating Zululand hills. She has done this walk every school day since she was 6 years old. 6 miles a day for 200 days a year. That's 1,200 miles every year. By the time she turned 8, she had walked the equivalent of New York to Los Angeles. And by now she has walked all the way back to New York and then back to LA again. When she finishes high school, she will have walked all the way from Cape Town to Paris and back. We called her the 1 in a million girl, not because her story is exceptional, but to draw attention to the fact that she's just one out of 1 million school children in rural Zululand, many of whom walk similar distances to school every day. Aneli is one of the lucky ones though, for when she finally gets to school, she enters a completely different world. First, she joins her 600 schoolmates for an open-air assembly. Then they all pile into class, and unlike many other schools, Thembelesizwe Primary has all the buildings needed to provide that many children with a decent education. When the hooter sounds for break, like children all over the world, Aneli's schoolmates play skipping games and kick around soccer with a ball made of rolled up plastic bags. When the end of break comes, it's a headlong rush back inside.
So it's pretty incredible, isn't it? The amount of dedication and fortitude that they have just to have that just fundamental opportunity at a shot of an education, right? So that's what we're doing. We're building schools in Africa to help girls like Aneli and all the children in Zululand. We're really striving to unleash the potential of every child by providing access to educational opportunities. And the opportunities that we're providing are our classrooms. And you can see the arrow on the screen here on the map. We're building in an area called Ashawe, which is in the northern part of South Africa. It's the heart of Zululand, and the Zulu are the largest ethnic group in South Africa. It's estimated about 12 million people of the Zulu descent are living in this province called KwaZulu-Natal. And our classrooms are in particularly desperately needed in this area. Without our classrooms, students are either overcrowded in really rudimentary structures that perhaps parents have built from brush or some lumber that has come off another building, or they're taught under trees like what you see here. And you can imagine in this area of the world, there's rainy season. So when it's raining, they just know they can't meet under their designated tree, and they just simply can't learn at all. It's sad, but children in rural South Africa are just really being left behind. So our goal is to provide safe and reliable places for all these disadvantaged children to come to learn, just basic learning. We want them to acquire knowledge and understanding and skills, anything that they need to have a productive life and be a responsible member of their society. You may wonder why we need to exist since apartheid ended some 25 years ago, but despite it ending so long ago, South Africa remains a really unjust and unequal society. You may know that during apartheid, it was actually illegal to teach a Black person anything that was not directly related to their profession. So for instance, if a person was a carpenter, you couldn't teach that person how to read because he wouldn't need to know how to read to hammer a nail, and it would be looked at as simply as that. Not only could you not teach him, but you could be imprisoned for teaching that person. And it's incredible when you think of, at that time, it was almost 80% of the South African population was Black. So 80% of the population could not be educated unless it was directly related to their employment needs. So all of this has left generations of Blacks just uneducated, unqualified, unsupported to have any type of reliable career. And they're still living with immense economic disparity and unmet needs. The government has a continued lack of funding in this area. It's just simply not a priority, because even though apartheid is done, that thought process of that division of society still exists. So in this area, there's really a lack of opportunities and a lack of facilities for them. And we know, as all of you know too, that education really creates a pathway to a brighter future, more promise, and certainly leads them out of poverty. So we're enabling the basic and fundamental right to an education. We were created in 2006 after our founder, Henry Brommelkamp, who you see here, and his husband, who's also a board officer, returned from this area, and they wanted to make a change. And to me, it's just incredibly impressive that when they saw the need, they couldn't not take action. They need to move to do this. And out of that, ACC was born. At that time, we started our partnership with Ashawi Community Action Group, and they've been our trusted local partner for 15 years now. And ECAG itself was formed over 40 years ago by a group of local Rotarians who saw the desperate need for schools in the area. And actually the Zulu King approached that Rotary Club and asked for help. And they started this nonprofit, the ECAG, to build schools. And this is a group that I meet with very regularly. And even just last Thursday, they were telling me that they only have about 6 members left in their Rotary Club, and they are, I would say, beyond retirement age, I'll put it that way. But they say they simply can't fold their club. Their club exists to solely spread the word to build these schools, and there's still so much need that they're all sticking with it. So it's a small group of Rotarians, but they're still active and they're still making a difference. So over the past 40 years, ECAG, along with help from ACC, has built over 3,000 classrooms, and we're building them much faster and much cheaper than the South African government is doing. Ours are built at an exceptionally low cost because we've got minimal overhead. It's 2 nonprofit groups that are funding all these buildings, and we have gained efficiencies through refining our processes over the years. And we're building at cost. Our design is simple and it's easily replicated. The government itself doesn't publish its figures, but what our local partners have learned is that they're building schools at a cost of about 10 times more than what we're building them at. And we're building them so much faster as well. We're in and out quickly. Like I said, our buildings are very simple. It takes us just 10 weeks to build a classroom. So we're in and out quickly once we've got that funding secured. And grassroots participation and co-investment guide the building of our classrooms, and it's really made this a very successful self-help project because there are requirements for the community that is requiring the classroom. They raise a deposit that equals about 3%, and you saw on the previous slide that a classroom costs $12,000 to build. 3% of $12,000 is not very much to you or I. I'm making that assumption, but to them, it's a very significant amount, and it takes a lot of planning for this whole community to raise that 3%. In addition to doing that, they put in labor as well. They level and fence the site. They secure the water that's needed for the construction because there's not just running water in these areas. And then they plant trees also to beautify the areas. And the great thing is that because the community is so involved, it really results in great respect and care for the buildings. In the past 40 years, we've never had any classroom ever be vandalized. And I think it's because of the care the community has. It's really a revered building for them. We've got some time-tested principles of success. Deciding a school is necessary and that the funds can actually be raised and labor can be committed is made by the community for the community. And then we conduct a thorough needs assessment. And then their local buy-in comes in literally in the form of them raising the funds and working the land. And when we need to hire labor, we keep the labor within the community. So it allows our engineering firm to teach some skills, which is great because then they might be able to use that elsewhere, of course, and it provides badly needed jobs and income to the area. And we've gained a lot of efficiencies because our classrooms are replicated with the same plans, and this allows us to have consistent results at low costs. We're not developing new blueprints every time a community needs a school. And then international accountability comes in terms of ACC and ECAG as well, reviewing progress reports. We get photos, we review audited financial statements from ECAG and our local engineering firm. And then we take donors on trips as well. And through those donor visits, we're able to see it with our own eyes. And it's very sweet to see how the classrooms are the heart of the community. So some of the classrooms are used for makeshift dormitories if the walk home for girls may prove to be dangerous at times. So some of them are used for dorms. And then during the pandemic, we had a large amount of communities actually choose to have their students quarantine in the building so that they would not have their learning disrupted. Because you can imagine without any technology or even electricity, there's no such thing as distance learning. And so when South Africa started to go on lockdown, there was a huge effort made to get like those small mats that you may have as a kindergartner to take your nap on, to get those into classrooms. And teachers made the commitment, families made the commitment, and did without their kids coming home to perform their normal chores so that their education wouldn't be disrupted. And then at night too, some of the classrooms are used for adult education to teach adults how to read or write, or perhaps learn a new trade. So classrooms are really giving our kids the future they deserve. We feel like Africa's future is in their hands, and their future is in ours. So it's just motivating to want to make a change for these kids, especially if you ever see them. It's like you're a rock star when you're there. They can't believe they're seeing you, and they're so gracious. And to have a glimpse at the outside world is just amazing for them. And really, I'll say in this area, there's no such thing as a library or a movie theater or any such place where a student would be able to learn about the world beyond their small community. So the classrooms really enrich their world. And I'm proud and excited, happy to say that we have served more than 37,000 students that are living on the margins of society. So 37,000 kids have been taught in ACC classrooms in the past 15 years. And this may be especially exciting for this group. We love to give curious individuals the chance to see our good work firsthand. And annually, except during a global pandemic, we host learning tours for travelers of all ages. So we really have from, depending on the tour, it could be young students, young children coming with their parents. We've had a lot of grandparents bring their grandchildren, just people of all ages have loved the tour. And the heart of the tour is really getting to know the people that we cherish, and the learners at our schools. And we spend the day having fun teaching them. And I use the term teaching loosely. We used to make lesson plans, but those dissolve quickly when the kids just want to be with you. And essentially it amounts to a lot of Q&A, which is great. And we bring pictures. I always encourage people to bring pictures of what their normal life is like, showing pictures of snow and snowmen, anything like that really is kind of exciting for them. And then we have a lot of time to play with them. And really, we also learn a lot about what the promise and challenge of education is like in that area. And it depends on the tour, but we usually spend about 4 days visiting our schools and going on some long, bumpy van rides in between them in this rural area. I mean, you can see in these pictures, you don't see any huts or homes for a long ways away. These kids really are walking a long way, as you saw with Anila in that first video. And then no trip to South Africa would be complete without a chance to go on safari. So we always offer an option to go on safari, and we spend a few days at a Big 5 game park. It's actually the largest game reserve in all of Africa. And I know a handful of you have been to Africa, so perhaps you've had that experience of being on safari. It is so exciting and exhilarating. It's just incredible. We take drives early in the morning and then in the evening, and then the days are pretty much free to just relax and enjoy the breathtaking landscape, where you can go with a guide on a walking tour, which is exciting, traveling by foot with a man who's got like a musket from 1877. And you're thinking that's going to protect me if we see any animals. But yeah, it's a fun walk, if nothing else. And then after the game safari, we typically travel just under a couple hours away to another area called St. Lucia. And there we have the adventure of a boat safari. It's a gorgeous area. It's South Africa's first World Heritage site. And the boat safari gives an opportunity to get very up close and personal with hippos and crocodiles. And we've had some tour attendees that have kayaked in these waters, which I'm a thrill seeker, but that I did not partake in. I just looked at them from the boat. And this town is also home to the largest free roaming population in South Africa. And I don't think I was ever in danger, but we definitely had some small hippos around the lodge we were staying at. The innkeeper was definitely making sure we kept our distance, but that was pretty exciting on one of my trips to see as well. So all in all, this is not a conventional package tour of Africa, I would say, by any means. It's really focused on cultural and philanthropic side of it. It's a very unique and meaningful way to see the region. We spent some time in Johannesburg too to learn about the history of apartheid, and we visit townships and do various things there as well that I think people wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to do if they were signing up for a package tour. And then we offer an option to spend some days in Cape Town. So Cape Town is perched between the ocean and Table Mountain, and it's amazingly stunning and stands in stark contrast to the northern area where we build our classrooms. And when we're in Cape Town, we have a lot of amazing food. We hear great music. We can tour Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was incarcerated, and some individuals will take in local wineries or play golf. And so it's a fun way to either wrap up the trip after you've had some maybe longer days visiting schools, to have this kind of more vacation-y style way to end the trip. So I'll get us back to our classrooms, our primary purpose. We've done great work thus far. We've built 119 classrooms. And like I said, we're very proud of being able to serve those 37,000 kids. But the reality is we've got a lot more work to be done. We have almost 150 communities that have their deposits raised and are waiting for us to build. And our pace is limited by the rate at which we can receive donations. So our progress is gated, but we're hoping, to continue with our momentum. The more we raise, the more we build, and hopefully can make a quick difference in these communities. So I would encourage all of you, if it sounds interesting at all, if you want to join me and become a builder of dreams, to follow us on social media and on our website. I've got the website address listed on this slide, and I can put it in the chat as well. We're active on social media. On Facebook is probably the most popular where people see us, where I think we have the most followers. And if you could join us there, that would be great. We've had great support around the world from Rotaries, but even in Minnesota and across the US, we've had a lot of clubs support us over the years, either through grants or club or individual donations, and just have so much gratitude towards them. But if nothing else, I'm not here for a money ask. I'm just here to grow our network of supporters, whatever that may look like to all of you. If you can share our story, share our good work, help amplify our message, that would be amazing. They're saying Siyabonga, which is thank you in Zulu. So thank you to all of you for allowing me to visit with you all. This has been a fun change of pace for me. I enjoy this.
Thanks so much, Robyn. Really great presentation and learned a lot. And yeah, I was going to ask, where anyone who's interested could make a donation. Sounds like that's the website.
Yep, there's definitely a link in the website to make a link. It's pretty, or to make a donation is pretty easy there. I'm typing in the website address right now, so you see it there. And you can, when you're on the page too, there's an area to subscribe so that you're part of our newsletter list and any other communications list. I don't send things out too often. I prefer to keep it on social media because I know things are probably getting lost in inboxes anyway. So it's just a handful of times through the year.
Sure, thank you. We usually open it up for some questions at the end, so I'll do that now. And actually, if everyone can take themselves off of mute and just give Robyn a nice round of applause here, and then we'll take some questions. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So who has a question? Karen.
Oh, gosh, I'd love to just spend an hour being able to chat with you. Thank you so much, Robyn.
You're
So
welcome.
my questions are, do you partner with Books for Africa? How are the classrooms how do you build a library besides the four walls, floor and ceiling? I mean, books, tuition, how are the schools funded?
Okay, so our work really ends after the completion of the building. So the government agrees to take them over because we've really kind of done the hard work for them in a way by building the school for them. The government takes it over so that it is sustainable. We don't have any fear that nobody will be using the classroom, and our local group, the ECAG, works very closely with the government to help this all transpire. So once we've got the classroom built, they provide, whatever else you need, desks, bulletin boards, books, all of those things, and the teachers. And so that's great. Kids can still be pretty crowded in these classrooms. It's not unusual to have 3 kids sharing a desk. The classroom's meant to be for up to 50 kids, and it's definitely always 50 kids, is what I've seen in my experience, if not many more. We do partner well with Books for Africa. It's not necessarily one-to-one. We build a classroom and they bring all the books, but we are a recipient of a lot of their books and we partner with them. They're aware of our building. In fact, the executive director of Books for Africa was on our board until he just couldn't manage it with his time about a year ago. So he was a longtime supporter, or continues to be a longtime supporter, but was on the board for many, many years. So that was great. And that really solidified our partnership with them. And then kids have to wear uniforms. I should say that there's no tuition, but kids have to wear uniforms. If you don't have a uniform, you can't attend school. And they're very well worn uniforms. I just got a request a couple of weeks ago from ECAG. They had identified the 35 most needy small children that needed uniforms so they could start their education. And they requested around $2,000 to fund 35 uniforms. And we decided that we weren't going to do that because we want to stay true to our primary mission. But if anybody is interested in making a donation specifically for that, we would definitely act as a conduit to get that money to them for those kids.
Are these used primarily for primary schools?
Primary and secondary.
Okay. And do you build toilet facilities for the schools?
No, we've had some grants, although we've had grants in the past from Rotary to build some latrines. So we have done that, but that's not our primary work, I would say. ECAG does a little bit more of that, but it's generally been funded through Rotary grants.
And historically in this part of South Africa, is there a fall off? I mean, once girls mature, is there historically a fall off of girls attending schools?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah. I will say though, I say that, but I'll give you a positive because I hate living it on a negative. So last February, we had a couple board members lead a trip to South Africa just shortly before the pandemic shut down. And it was great when they came back because they were so enthusiastic. There was one of the principals who was so excited to see them, and she was excited to share that she was finally going to have a boy go to medical school.
Oh my
And
God.
they thought, oh, great, somebody's going to medical school. That's great. She had had 5 girls go to medical school, and this is going to be the first boy. So
Wow.
like, oh, that was great.
That's awesome.
Wasn't the first person, first boy.
Thanks, Karen. Does someone else have a question? I actually have a question. Did you say that the local community needs to raise 3%?
Mhm.
So 3% is like out of a $12,000 school would be like $360. And that is, but just imagine, right? It's a lot of, yeah.
Right. And for a whole community to raise that.
To raise that, so.
Yeah, it begs the question. I need to look up what the statistic is for what the annual income would be for individuals living in that province. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's broken down to that granular level or not, but.
Is education compulsory in South Africa for all? I mean, is there universal compulsory education?
I think the answer is yes. However, if they don't attend, they don't attend.
Yeah.
There's no truancy officers checking in on them.
I'm going to share the Rotary 4-way test to kind of officially end the meeting, and then we can stick around a little longer if anyone else has any questions. And Robin, if you're able to stick around just a few more minutes, but
Sure.
If everyone can take themselves off of mute, and then the Rotary 4-way test, Robin, is sort of the, the foundational principles that as Rotarians, we all try to bring into business and life. So the Rotary 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it
the truth?
Is it
Is
fair?
it fair to all concerned?
Will it
Build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be
Will be
beneficial?
beneficial to all concerned?
The 4-way test works much better in person when there's not Zoom lag time, but we make do. So you guys have a dinner personally to attend. So it's 5:30 on the dot. This is a great meeting. Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for just allowing me to babble away and share our story. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was just a great presentation. I hope you and Olga are able to meet up in Marshall.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be fantastic.
Yes.
And would it be okay, John, if I sent you just a 1-pager about ACC that you could share with the group?
Absolutely, please do, and then I'll put it out. Yeah.
Thanks.
Chris Ann, I'm going to throw the meeting over to you, and Kirk, whenever you're ready to stop the recording, I think that's fine. Everybody have a great week. Pollinators, we'll talk to you tomorrow.